Coming at you from the King Heritage and Cultural Center, where today we're going to be talking about the story of Carleton Crossley and his time marooned on the ice. This is an article that I found of Carleton's story, actually from the Toronto Star, that he wrote himself. This was a special to the Star, and he wrote it and sent it in, and this is how I became familiar with his story, and it's really cool. So I'm just going to kind of paraphrase the story, tell you a little bit about it, and if you're interested, keep scrolling and you can read the whole thing. So I'm going to put this down. Carleton was a cool guy. He, born and raised here in King City. He had lived just down the street from the KHCC. He was in World War I as a pilot, World War II as a pilot, flew with Ontario provincial things in between. It was really cool. He's like all over the place. And so one of the things he was doing in the 1850s, one of the things he was doing in the 1950s was flying over the Arctic. So he was up north past the Hudson's Bay area in what's called the Fox Basin, and he was flying and got lost. 1950s technology for radar wasn't quite what we have today, so he thought he was like going down to land on land, but actually ended up crash landing on the ice. This was in May 1956, so anybody's familiar with Canada in May and the way the icebergs flow, that's peak ice time. It's when it's starting to break off and start to shift down south. But at that time there's a lot of ice to land on, but again, it's that time where it's shifting, so it's more dangerous. So he crash lands on the ice, can't, his plane's shot, he can't continue, and he's like stuck. Starts doing radio signals, trying to look for help and do whatever he can, but ultimately he's on a piece of ice, not sure where he is. The first 5 days he was, on his ice and trying to survive. He immediately started putting together what food he had. Luckily, he had recently stopped for provisions, so he had lots of food still, and started divvying that up so he'd have enough to last him as long as possible. He continued to make radio transmissions, trying to find, reach for help and call for help. He said he did come across two Inuit peoples on a dog sled. He asked them for help, but unfortunately they didn't speak any English, so he wasn't able to, get the help he needed from them. He was hoping that they could, contact the RCMP or someone who would be able to, come out and look for him. So that was the first 5 days. But day 6, the ice started to shift, and his ice floe actually broke off from the main piece. So he's now floating on this big piece of ice. And part of that, luckily, he could feel the ice shifting, things moving, so he started to pull everything all together, but unfortunately when the ice cracked, his plane was on the other piece, but luckily him with all his provisions were all together, so he's separated from the plane but together with his food and everything else he needed. So it's terrifying, scary, but he's still surviving. At this point he looks into what he had. He had been sleeping in the plane, so he needed to create a shelter on the ice floe. Not really sure how big it was, but big enough that it could hold him. There's actually a picture I'll show you after of it. And so he creates uses his tarps to make a tent and continues to eat, and also still has his radio, so he's sending out Morse code signals like, please come save me, this is where I am. And it was on day 12 since he had landed that finally he didn't actually see them, they spotted him first. And this is the picture I was saying. In the bottom here, you can see here, that's the picture of his rescuers. They could see from a distance. He had blown up this rescue balloon as a signal, and they had seen it and actually went towards it. And then the picture here you can see is actually him getting his things together to get on the plane to be rescued. So he was extremely lucky. He, of course, had some dark thoughts, thought he wasn't going to make it, but in the end pulled through and was able to rejoin his, this still has the picture at the top there, that's his wife and his son back here in King City. So amazing, really cool story about a cool guy from our area. So scroll down, check out the rest of the article on him, and let us know what you think in the comments. Thanks. Bye.